Imagine everything that you want already exists. There are limitless possible versions of you. Which version you step into depends on one thing: where you point your attention. You see, the old Newtonian model of physics would have you believe that you live in a world of separation with fixed laws. But quantum physics shows you that separation might actually be an illusion. Ancient wisdom such as above, so below, actually pointed at this thousands of years ago, and how reality actually acts like a mirror, reflecting consciousness that is projected onto it. In other words, the observer changes the observed, and this is known as the observer effect. This is a key and essential discovery in the new world of quantum physics, whereby your thoughts created by the mind, your emotions created by your body, can set you onto different timelines that already exist. In other words, the version of yourself that you want to be, whether it's the richer version, the healthier version, the version of yourself with the relationship that you want, that version of you already exists right now in this model of quantum physics. And all you need to do is understand the principles that I'm going to share with you in this video so that you can apply them and collapse the time in between where you are now and where you want to be to get there infinitely faster. If you can imagine something, if you can see your vision for the future right now, or you have these desires, they already exist, therefore they're already possible within the world of the quantum field. So if you feel scarcity right now, or like you don't have enough, or if you feel insecurity, or maybe you fear failing, or more specifically, other people's perception of you if you fail, or if you find that you have laziness or procrastination or any of these things, these are simply reflections of your thoughts and emotions that create your internal programming and your identity, which are manifesting the reality that you currently have. And so if you found yourself stuck at the same place for a period of time, it's not a willpower problem. It's not just a problem of doing more physically, because if that was the case, then you'd already be there because you would have just done more. And to prove this, just think about the difference between an Uber driver and Jeff Bezos. Who works harder and actually puts in more effort? Well, actually, it would be the Uber driver who's working 12 hours a day whilst Jeff Bezos is chilling on his $500 million yacht. But what Jeff Bezos was actually able to do was to align his thoughts and emotions clearly to create a clear vibrational signal to manifest the reality of Amazon to him much faster. He was able to create new belief systems that actually affected the entire world to change around him. And so the question is, what is the reality you want, and how can you start to apply these same systems to you? Because these quantum laws already exist, already happening. The question is, are they working for you or against you? Now, how do we start making them work for you? Quite simply, the first step is to observe what your recurring thought patterns are on a day-to-day basis, because 95% of your thoughts are actually the same as yesterday. And if you understand that your thoughts are creating your reality, then suddenly, would you ever allow a thought that is negative or that is not serving you to even come through your mind? Absolutely not. So the first step to this is to notice what are those recurring thoughts. And a simple way of doing this is simply to sit down with a journal or your notes and start just noticing what are those thoughts that are coming up. And what you'll find most probably is that many of those thoughts are negative. Now, that doesn't mean you are negative. It just means that your mind creating the thoughts are negative. So in the same way that this observer effect works with quantum physics, when you can observe a reality, it will become manifest. In the same way, you need to observe what is going on in your internal reality so that you can become aware of it and change it. And as you do this, you'll notice thoughts come up. And for example, when I did this for myself, I've noticed that I actually felt insecure, that I felt scared of other people's judgment. What if I put myself out there? What if I fail? What if people realize that I'm not actually as good as I say that I am? What if I get found out as an imposter? Maybe some of these similar thought patterns come up for you. Write them all down. Notice it. Start to become aware of it, because awareness is the first step. As Carl Jung said, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will rule your life, or something to that, don't quote me. But this is the first step, okay? And I want you to list out every single negative thought. These negative thoughts are what become your toolkit to manifest the reality that you want. They become your weapons, because now that we've got them, we just need to change them and start imprinting the correct thoughts and belief systems into your internal reality, so that your external reality has no choice but to reflect the reality that you're in. For example, with myself right now, I live in this penthouse here in Dubai, and I was just standing on the balcony this morning and I was looking out the beautiful view of Dubai and the skyrise buildings and the sun coming up. And I realized as I was looking out, I created this in my mind, because I would visualize, I would self-hypnotize myself to fully experience this reality before it actually happened. And this isn't just positive thinking or seeing it. This is truly experiencing the reality with absolute certainty, having no doubts, leaving no stone unturned. And the degree to which you can do that is equal to the speed in which you will collapse the timeline and make this reality happen. Because I remember even just 1 year ago, when I was in Dubai, I was lost. I didn't know what I was doing. I was running a different business at the time. And I was lost. I was stuck, I just couldn't figure out what is that next step for me. I didn't have the confidence. I remember feeling so much uncertainty. I felt so lost inside. Yet, once I was able to notice what all of those negative thoughts were, all of those uncertainties, I was able to flip them. And suddenly those negative thoughts became my superpower, because I flipped them to, I am certain, I am enough, I am a success. I'm already working with billionaires. I would tell myself, I'm working with billionaires as clients before I even had it. Guess what? Now I work with billionaires. Everybody would ask me, how have you been able to do that? Well, in my mind, it's not a surprise, because I already lived this reality. You can call it the law of assumption, you can call it quantum physics, you can call it the law of attraction. I don't care what you call it. The point is that the mechanism is the same. It works. And so now you can start installing these correct thoughts into your internal programming. You can start putting them into your mind, write out all the new thoughts, and then suddenly what happens is, as you start to step into this internal reality, you start to feel differently physically. You actually will start to notice, wow, I do feel like I can do this. I do feel confident. I do feel worthy. I do feel enough. And guess what? That is the version of you that shows up every single day when you meet somebody and you say, hey, this is who I am. They can literally see the confidence in your eyes. They can feel your energy, because in your world, it's already happening. And you will get tests, by the way. This is part of the process. Things will test that. People in your current surroundings will test you. They'll say, who do you think you are? What do you mean by that? Like, that's silly. You're not going to be able to do that. I remember one time specifically, this was 7 years ago, and I was more or less, well, maybe a little bit longer than that. Maybe it was like 9 years ago now. I was more or less broke. I was just coming out of university, and I remember it was near Christmas time, and I told my mom, hey, I'm going to live in this penthouse in London. And, she laughed at me, not out of a negative way, but just because it was ridiculous for me to say that. As I was this broke, university grad, I didn't even apply for a single job. I didn't have much going for me. And I was saying, hey, I'm going to live in this Sky Garden. It was a specific building in London I wanted to work in. And she laughed. And I remember that challenged my reality. And in that specific singular moment, I could have let that reality and belief system take me down, but I didn't. Instead, I flipped it. And I turned that pain into fuel and into fire. And you know what the funny thing was? I moved out into a penthouse, not that exact same one, but in 2021, a real estate agent I was working with offered me that exact same building and an apartment in there. And the funny thing was, I didn't even want it, because I was so detached from it by that point. I didn't need it. And this brings me on to the next step, is when you fully step into the identity and the reality, and these quantum laws start working for you, you don't even need the outcome anymore. Why? Because you're already living it. You're already experiencing the emotion and the state of that reality. And so you don't need it anymore. Why? Because everything that you do is actually for some kind of emotion. And so if you can experience that motion right now, reality has no choice but to give you that reality, because you're an energetic and vibrational match for it. Like attracts like. As within is without. That exact same theory, this ancient wisdom, all points back to this same principle. And the way I say it, and the equation I have tattooed on my arm, is that your internal state equals your external reality. And your internal state is simply your thoughts created by the mind, your emotions created by the body, and the environment that you surround yourself with, the physical places and the people in it. This all affects your internal state. And so if you can start looking at these simple 3 principles, anytime you want to create something, you just say, okay, which elements of the equation do I need to tweak in order to get what I want? And it will happen.